you have a lot of experience. We met each other when you were helping me with my resume at the Heige Career Center at SMU. So you're a very smart guy, and obviously we kind of
Thank you.
rekindled when I reached out to you on LinkedIn, and so since then, I've got to know you a little bit better, and so I thought I should get you on here today to kind of get your experiences and learn more about you, kind of help the audience with all the stuff that you know. So
Yeah,
yeah, welcome.
thanks, David. Well, thanks for having me. It's awesome how, everything comes back around, like back in
Yeah.
freshman year, I was helping you with your resume. Now, like I'm getting interviewed by you. So, life is always interesting. I love it. But yeah, I'm super excited to just talk about my experience and it just, want to just share everything that I know with you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So we could start with SMU. So you were at the Heige Career Center. So you've seen, I think it was like 150. I think I saw some figure, but you've seen like probably hundreds or a good amount of people at least, go through, kind of get advice on their career. So what were some of the things you saw there, and kind of what were some of the trends and some of the advice you would give based on what you saw?
Yeah, I think so. I worked at Heggie and Cox, and together I've looked over above like 180 students altogether.
Hmm.
And it's a great privilege to work with students because, I'm a student too, but
Yeah.
I'm also helping other students. It's such an interesting dynamic, but I love helping other people. Um, One of the biggest trends that I've seen was people are like really curious in how to create like a really good resume. And
Hmm.
it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of resources out there, but still, making a resume is pretty difficult. So having a really refined resume was a common theme. Just making sure like what to put in your bullet points and formatting issues was a big thing. And the second thing is just networking. Like, how can I network? How should I network? And because it's very difficult because when you reach out to people in LinkedIn or cold emailing, it's hard because sometimes you don't know what to say. So those are the two things that I've seen the most throughout my career at Heggie and Cox, and I was able to
Yeah.
help with that.
Yeah, networking is definitely an interesting one. I remember like even reaching out to people myself on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
If you don't know them and it's just a cold apply, a cold email, whatever, it's super hard to get a response because why should they?
yeah, it's
So
like you're asking for their time, and then most people are super busy. We have
yeah.
everything personal and like work related things going on in our lives, and all of a sudden you receive like a message on LinkedIn for your time. It's just
Hmm.
sometimes it doesn't bode well. But then if you are able to send a message that has a value prop and
Hmm.
ask for like a really small time to respect their time, you can find success there for sure.
Yeah. So what were some of the tips that you gave the students for networking? And then also we can go to resumes after. That'd be super
Oh
interesting.
yeah, absolutely. And for me, networking is more like, making new relationships. And I like to see it as building an organic relationship and just being really curious about other people's lives and careers in general. Because it's fascinating because you get to learn so many cool things about, people. I myself, for me, like I was born in South Korea. I lived in the Philippines for like 18 years and I moved to the States like 5.5 years ago, lived in Atlanta, Dallas. Now I'm in Chicago. But it's interesting. Like you want to learn like where people lived, what they did, and also like what they did out of their work. I think that's kind of how I see networking, like just getting to know people. Um, and the other tips of networking that I told all the students that I've met with was when you reach out in LinkedIn, make sure you ask for like 5 to 10 minutes of their time, like not anything above 30 minutes or 15 minutes, because it's just, you're busy. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
won't have that much time out of your day to talk to strangers. So make it short, talk about something interesting that you learned about, while looking at their LinkedIn profile and, you know, ask an open-ended question like, would you be interested? Like, would you like mind, you know, talking about this specific experience and I want to learn from it? Asking it in that way has been pretty effective. And that's what I've been telling a lot of my students during my career at Heggie and Cox. Um, and, in LinkedIn, if you go to someone's profile, they get notified, right? So like if you look at someone's profile, make sure you ping them or
Mhm.
what did
Yeah.
you see something that was interesting and make sure you highlight that to them. And then I think the responses get much higher.
Yeah, I've noticed for the last year, LinkedIn is like the platform for networking. I've seen
Yeah,
people,
it's
yeah,
crazy. A
yeah,
billion people on it. A billion people.
exactly. It's only
That's
going to get
crazy.
bigger, and it's only going to get
Yeah.
easier and more interesting ways to reach people. So I think as like the job market changes and everything like that, I think LinkedIn is just
Yeah.
going to be. I think people are going to start looking at your LinkedIn more than they're going to start looking at your resume. I think it's just being looked at a little differently, and also a LinkedIn is also just like a social media version type of your resume. So it has everything on there that you would need to see for an employer. So I think it's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, it's fun. LinkedIn is definitely fun. I love it. I use it a lot. I think I use it more than any other social media, which I think is a trend that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a great place to post things and update people. And you know how people say about how LinkedIn is, sometimes it gets a bit too much, and I think that's pretty
Yeah.
funny because some people like to share about everything, which no problem with that. But yeah, it's a great place to be. And if you don't have one, you should make one.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any some good stories from many like interesting, notable stories from your time with being a high geek career counselor? Anything in specific that comes to mind, like your kind of your least favorite moments about it, or some of your favorite times you've had?
My favorite moments are like this. Like I met you
Yeah.
there and then you followed, we circled back again and we're talking again over here and just, building more of a relationship. And I think that's like the best part of it. I know actually almost most of the students that I've helped with, keep in contact. I see what their, careers, been progressing I look at them and I know these people. I've talked to them. So I think that's like the best part of it. Like just the fact that you were able to give advice in their early careers and then receiving it and using it to their benefit is just really 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 nice to see, and it
Yeah.
fulfills me as a person because
Mm.
it's a privilege to teach other people and just give advice in general. um the other, I guess, not worst, but like some of like the difficult parts at working at Hagee was a lot of people came. Like I had my schedule was filled. Like I think it was end of sophomore and beginning of junior year when classes started to get really busy. Like I did piano and business at the same time, so like I had a pretty tight schedule. But all these students start to schedule all these 15 minute and like 30-minute calls for resume and mock resume, so mock calls. And yeah, it was just getting really busy. So like there was this one time when I was, having like a little meeting at the gym because I was like, oh crap, like this, I have to help this student, but I was working out, so I had to like go to the corner of the gym and pop my computer up and then start helping people, and yeah, it was just those little moments, and I wouldn't say it's bad, but like it's really fun, but yeah, it was really just busy. Like I feel like I wasn't putting enough time for like my career and like my resume, but just helping other people. But I was just really happy doing that.
Yeah. No, I know even for myself, like trying to do this business while also at SMU, you end up taking meetings at any spot you can. Like I also had to do a meeting at the gym one time at that same gym. So I definitely get it.
Yeah, it do be like that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also saw that you had a summer internship at Sendero, so associate consultant. So I kind of want to touch on that. So what did you do for Sendero?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my original track was to be a management consultant. That was really interesting to me because, helping clients, solving complex problems. And since I did a management major, I just thought to myself that was like the best, career progression. So in Sendero, it was just, for 3 months, I was working with some big healthcare client, just helping them with the M&A stuff. And there I got to just really learn what a day-to-day life looks like for a consultant, creating process flows, doing stand-up meetings, Scrum and Agile methods. These are all like buzzwords. I'm not really, I'm not even sure if I really used it properly, but That was kind of the terms that we used. And yeah, it was a great time. I learned what it means to be a professional there. Yeah.
Hmm.
I learned what it means to be professional. Professional as in how you reply to people, your executive engagement, and promising and doing what you like promised. Like that's the most important thing. So just learning to, deliver results that benefits the team. So those are like the key things that I've learned. And yeah, it was a great time. I loved it. Hmm.
Yeah. So what kind of made you, this is what I'm interested about, what made you transition from your career in like management consulting to kind of now it seems like with AT&T and with Stripe that it's more of a sales route for you?
Yeah, it's a good story. So I was supposed to be a management consultant after college. I got an offer. Um, but it got pushed back, like many other people. I'm sure a lot of people, feel the same way. It got pushed back due to market outlooks. Things are not looking good. Companies are not exactly sure where we're headed altogether as, you know, since we were just kind of rebounding back from COVID and it was not, recovering quickly enough. So it got pushed back like 6 months. I'm like, okay, I could probably do something. And I was teaching piano on the side. So, I could teach piano and then wait for my offer to come back. But then that pushback became over a year. They said, oh yeah, I think this was 2022. And they said, oh yeah, 2023, it's gonna be like first September of 2023. But then they're like, oh no, it's gonna be pushed back to Q3 or Q4 on 2024. And I'm like, whoa, that's a bit too far. Like I need to be
Mhm.
doing something. So my second in line was doing sales, and the reason why sales was like, oh, it's great, like building organic relationships, driving revenue for the business. Uh, metrics don't lie and numbers don't lie. You can test yourself and become better every day. So I was like, you know what, that's pretty interesting. So I was searching for jobs, like just like everyone else. And in LinkedIn, I found this B2B sales development program at AT&T. And a lot of people go through that. And it was an awesome experience for me. I moved on to Stripe, but still, I feel like there was so many important things that I've learned about what sales means at this development program. So yeah, I worked at the Dallas headquarters in downtown for 4.5 months. And then I wanted to kind of even put more of a challenge of like to myself. Like, hey, I want to be selling more of a sophisticated, software. And Stripe was kind of the company that I really wanted to work for. And I got to know Stripe because, my brother has a startup at YC over there in SF and they use Stripe. And my brother told me, hey, like you should definitely look into this. I'm like, okay, sure. Interviewed and I got the position and I started since this early January. So pretty awesome.
Yep,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that about your brother. That's super cool. And like Stripe is the payment processor to use, and in terms of like financial technology, they're just the best at it. We use them as well for my company, and so in every single, even when I was getting
Oh,
into
there we
entrepreneurship,
go.
yeah,
There we
you already
go.
sold me before the call. So but
That's
everyone
awesome.
when I was getting into entrepreneurship who was way ahead of me, they always told me like if you're going to use a payment processor, use Stripe. They never have a complication. So not to sell Stripe on the call, but it's you guys
Well,
do a good job.
yeah, everyone, y'all should look it up.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a great company. It's really awesome, and it's just more than a payment processor now. It's just doing the whole money movement cycle. So which is pretty awesome. But I won't get into it too much since
yeah,
that's not
yeah.
our main focus here.
No, I get it. But yeah, no, you've already sold me, so Stripe is the way to go. But so yeah, so do you have so many other good stories with your time at AT&T? How long did you say you were at AT&T again?
4.5 months. 4.5 months. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Um, pretty short time. That's the usual kind of time frame that people stay there at
Hmm.
the development program. Best thing that I've learned was cold calling
Yeah.
with my coworkers. That was so fun. That was like my first time I actually cold call. Um, it was daunting. It was scary at first because like, what am I gonna say? How are people gonna respond to me? What if I make a hiccup? What if I say something stupid? Let's say, but Yeah, I remember it was my first cold call was it went like this, like I was like, hey, like it's Jihoon, like from AT&T. And then the first thing that person said, like, get me off your list. Like he was rude. Like he said something really vile to me. And I'm like, wow, what a great start.
Yeah.
Everything I've heard about cold calling, every like bad things about it happened on my first call. But since then I was one of the top performers. Learned a lot, and I couldn't have made it out with with my help with my manager and like from other great sellers, because I love to just shadow and hear how the top performers are doing, because I learned a lot from it. But yeah, it was a great time, like super super fun.
Yeah, I always say cold calling is a skill that everyone should have. Not that they're going to get into sales or anything like that, but like the ability. I had an internship last summer where I did a lot of cold calls for
Yeah, how
this
was it?
wealth management firm. It's exactly like you said. The first call you get on, first 10, you're guaranteed to get like the most abrupt objection to whatever you're offering. You probably won't even
Yeah,
get on the phone. Even if you do get
yeah,
on the phone, exactly. I got so many people telling me, can you take me off the mailing list or the calling list, So
that happens.
it's just how it is. But at the end of the day, like the ability to do that and go through that and then also become even a little bit successful in that, it's super
Yeah,
important, to handle the
it's
rejection.
it's a great feeling, because you can really track yourself. Like, hey, like I mean, at AT&T, I made around 50 to 65 calls a day, an average. And some of my other coworkers did more. Um, but yeah, it was tough, but rewarding for sure.
Yeah. And so explain to me a little bit how you found the Stripe job, how you switched to that.
Yeah, also, to find jobs, I personally believe that LinkedIn is the best place to find jobs. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, there's Indeed, there's Google, there's a lot of other things to find like your job. But for me, just LinkedIn was the way to go for me. And people could disagree, that's totally fine. But for me, LinkedIn was the best. Yeah, I applied for the Stripe job at LinkedIn. So a little context behind this, but I actually applied to Stripe before I even like went to AT&T. But it didn't work out. The positions were full. So I came back to it again, and it was the same recruiter. Um, and then yeah, I found it, applied, went through a pretty extensive interview process. It was fun though. Just meeting everyone at Stripe throughout the interview process was super special. Like it was conversational. People really cared about who you were. So many good things. So as I was going through the process, I just knew like this was a place I wanted to work for. Yeah, but that's how I found the job initially. It was LinkedIn.
Yeah. And so if you have any
Yeah.
advice for people, kind of along that topic who want to get a job and, as LinkedIn is, I also agree with you, by the way, I think LinkedIn is the place to go. Then what do you
Yeah.
think should be a good strategy, like a good streamlined process for them to look for employment
Oh
online?
yeah, that's a good question. I think everyone has their own, system, and everyone operates differently. What worked for me was create an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, first of all, and list your top 15, top 20 firms. This is just like how you do in sales. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, list your top 15, 20 companies, and kind of tell yourself and even write it down, like why this company is your top 15 to 20, and make an action plan and put more focus on those top 15 to 20. For example, figure out who are the recruiters or people who actually work there. Kind of put that in the list, in the columns, like in this company. And any big recent news. Are they hiring? What positions do they have open? And how does those positions, how does my skills relate to that position? So kind of you have to really know that already. And of course, basic stuff, have a refined resume, have your friends overlook it, let them rip it apart. you know, they have to give you, feedback, and that's how you grow. And cover letters, I don't know, depends. Consulting firms, sure, but many positions they don't really look at cover letters, and that's just how I feel. Maybe I'm wrong. And then yeah, connecting with people who are working there. Really important stuff. Yes, you can do cold emails. I would suggest cold LinkedIn in-mails or messages are pretty effective. I think those are pretty nice. I found a lot of success in that. So yeah, top 15 to 20 list, why you think that's an important company, relevant news, and then have a hundreds and 200s list of other companies. And
Mhm.
then apply, apply, apply. My brother told me this, and a lot of my other friends that are really excelling in their careers, they've told me they apply to 200 to 300 companies. And guess what the reply rate is, or the first interview is? Only like one, two, two to three companies reply. That's crazy. That's kind of the
Right.
world we live in right now. The reply and reply rate and just getting the first interview of a job is just so small. So it's a numbers game, right? So you have to shoot a lot and apply a lot. But with the top accounts or top companies you want to work for, you have to put a lot more effort in. Like tailor your resume, tailor your cover letter, tailor who specifically you want to reach out to, and have a value prop of why you think that person should meet with you, and also tell what you can offer to the company. And knowing that firmly, I think is super important because people can tell like if you have a strong conviction of how you can help and how you can be a value to the team that you're applying for. So I think that's kind of the mindset you need to have. And yes, the tech market is really bad. People are not getting jobs. People got laid off. And you hear every single day how many layoffs are happening, right? It's pretty insane. It's pretty insane how many layoffs are happening. And which means the job market is getting a bit more competitive because we have fresh grads applying for jobs, but then we have experienced 2 to 3 year or 5 to 10 year experienced people who got laid over applying at the
Mhm.
same time. And it's like, I mean, if you're a company, who would you hire? More of an experienced person, right? That's just kind of logical way. But then that's also kind of being like a huge detrimental thing to people who are just starting off their early careers. And I don't know, I don't have a solution, but that's what I've been seeing a lot. What was happening?
Yeah,
So to stand out, yeah, sorry, yeah, to stand out, you need to stay really focused.
I was just going to add to your point. It's crazy. I remember when I was actually writing the business plan for Job Toast, I was doing some research on like the market and to see because it's career services, right? So I wanted to see how the economy is doing, how the job market's doing, and across the board, all the biggest companies who you would think can like have all the capital, all the resources to hold on to their employees. Like I think Amazon laid off 28,000 employees last year, or something like
Yeah.
19,000 or 28, something around those numbers, and it's just crazy. Like when you think about individual people, 28,000, and then you go to Microsoft, you go to any company you can name, and so they're always having layoffs. So it's tough.
Yeah,
It's getting more
it's
competitive.
yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that's the world we live in right now.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point I haven't even thought about. Where like if you're a company and then you have all these people who were laid off or from other companies or whatever who've been working at them for 5 years, 10 years, whatever, they're
Yeah,
skilled
yeah.
operators. Are you going to take that, or are you going to invest in the recent college grad who doesn't have the experience but will work hard? It's a tough decision for a company.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a dilemma. And I haven't really like deeply thought about it, but I'm sure recruiters and other professionals know this very well. But from my perspective, I just think that's the ongoing issue right now.
Yeah. So would you were going to do management consulting and now you're in sales. Would you have any thoughts on, because I think sales is something that's like underappreciated as a skill and as a job. And I personally,
Yeah,
I actually,
yeah,
I love sales. Like I think it's the most important thing, and I try to get better at it every day. Even sales, just like getting on Zoom calls, like talking to people, your communication skills. But do you have any advice for people that are getting into sales, looking at it, looking to maybe apply into a job, just kind of looking at the industry in general and getting some advice?
yeah. I'm not sure if I still have the credibility yet because it's a fresh new career. I just got into it. But I can share it in terms of my personal experience of like how I got there. Um, Let me just kind of dig even deeper. I think personally, in terms of your personal life, like what you should be doing is to, create a good system for yourself. Like, for example, if you want to go get into sales or any kind of like no, huge numbers and like cold calling and then, lead generation and building revenue for the business, you need to have a really smooth and a running system. And you need to be consistent. And I kind of like to share about like my personal like habits too. Like I have a system every morning and I try to keep it consistent. And that will actually help you a lot in terms of like searching for jobs. And also when you get a job, like you'll build a system, a habitual system that will ultimately benefit you. I think that's kind of the advice that I have. First of all, is like have a structured life. Yeah, have
Yeah.
a very structured and strategic life. And trust me, I'm not a professional. I just started.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have no clue what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel super lost, and that's okay. But ultimately, you have to try to put it together and then have that, smooth engine, like smooth oiled engine just running. And I'm kind of speaking like more metaphorically, but the point is be consistent. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
mean,
thing.
this, I always talk about like, even if it's not business, like for me, the gym, and like I know you told me you work out, like
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's like simple things that aren't business related, like the gym, like building that consistency just keeps you, as you said, like the engine running, So
Yeah,
super
yeah,
important to have.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Super, super important to have. Yeah, that's biggest advice I would give. And just look at the trends too of the industry, you know,
Hmm.
huge thing. Just because whenever I make my initial phone calls, I did this almost every company is I would talk about recent news. Like when Stripe made this whole new partnership with JCB, to explore the, more the Japan, local payment stuff. Um, I talked about that in my first phone call. Like, hey, like I just saw like, Stripe just expanded the partnership with JCB. That's super exciting. I want to be part of this, growing company and, put a lot of value in something in the lines of that. And with Sendero too, I talked about the industry, how fragmented the consulting industry is. The data might be a bit different now, but the highest market share of a consulting firm is around 6%, and it's Accenture. Accenture is the biggest one. But still, 6% in a huge market is fragmented, which means there's a lot of other opportunities for small consulting firms to grow and capture some of the market share. So I told Sendero, like, hey, I know the consulting market's pretty fragmented, and I know Sendero is growing pretty quickly. I want to join this fast growing market and with this company. So something like that. Like, it could be
Hmm.
just like that. Just one sentence. Boom. You feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are some tips, like things that I've actually done. And
Hmm.
yeah, maybe, people who are watching, maybe you can try it in your, first phone screening, maybe, and let us know how it goes.
Hmm. So, walk me through like a day of yours at Stripe. I kind of want to know what the process is like, like as a salesman, development rep, and
Yeah,
kind of the day-to-day operation.
yeah, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this yet because I just started. But I'm building my schedule. I'm just learning things. Just started outreaching and outbounding. So my coworkers, they're awesome. Like they're super smart. They know what's up. Like they really know what they're doing. So yeah, maybe one day you can interview them. But what right now I'm just building my schedule, learning the process, learning the internal tools and just waiting for a response. Yeah, that's kind of where
Yeah.
I am, but it's exciting. Like I'm I think I have like a month and a half left for my ramp month, and then after that I'll start my Q2. But yeah, that's where I am. Like just wake up, read the news in the morning, go to the office, research some prospects, focus on few accounts, top key accounts, and then have lunch together with the team. After that, in the afternoon, maybe just do a lot of outbounding and then, Salesforce hygiene and that kind of stuff, sales stuff.
Uh,
And then
uh,
and then you end the day with like just kind of reflecting on yourself. So that's what I'm building. I wouldn't say I have perfected it in terms of executing it, but that's what I'm building.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, this is more of a selfish aspect. I'm wondering what exactly for outbound, like what platform do you guys use? What exactly? Because at the highest level, I wonder like what like a company like Stripe would do for like outbound.
Oh, just emails, like
Mhm.
uh, internal tools. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share it, but it's probably just emails, Gmail, and like LinkedIn emails.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I
So
can't
because
give you like the best
no,
answer
no,
because I'm
you're
not really
good. You're
sure
good.
yet. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. Yeah.
Exactly. Because one of my mentors was telling me like even at the highest level, like the biggest companies are just doing the fundamentals just at scale. Like you would think they like growing up, I thought, all the big companies that have technology and access to things that, most people don't. And it's true to a sense, but at the end of the day, they're still doing emails, they're still doing outbound, as you said, like calls. It's all the fundamentals just done right and scaled.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of I've seen in LinkedIn people have very strong opinions about cold calling and how to outbound. Some people say cold calling is dead. That wasn't the case for me at AT&T. So like, and it depends on different segments of sizes and segments of industries and companies. I think it depends. But I've seen some of my coworkers be successful with cold calls for enterprises. So and
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. People can say whatever they want, but you, I personally believe that you have to personally try it out yourself to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think for cold calling, people saying cold calling is dead. I think people just don't realize. I could be wrong about this as well, but I feel like people don't realize that it's not dead. It's just the response rate and the amount of ability you're going to have to close someone is just going to be drastically lower. But if you can, if
Yeah,
you can like 20x the volume, then you should be fine. If you have the skills.
yeah.
But and I always put it in like a personal lens. If I received a cold call, how would I react? And most of the time, unless it was the best salesman, I probably wouldn't give it time. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting industry for sure. I just got into it and we'll see. I'm excited for the future for sure.
Yeah. So what are your goals for you to say like short term and long term? So like short term, we can look at the next year, 2 years, and then long term, we can look at 10 years plus if you have that in
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, that's 10 years. Woo. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to share. But before I even start, we never know what's gonna happen. I never know what's gonna happen. And let's just get that straight. But what I have plans for is after 2 to 5 years, I definitely want to go into a more of an account executive role at Stripe, more of the closing. And that's where I want to be. Probably I'll start with startups because I love working with startups. I think it's super fascinating. Get to meet all these co-founders, fascinating business ideas, and ultimately how can Stripe help them? You know, just that's really interesting. 5 to 10 years, I would love to work at a startup, like as a head of sales. I think it's pretty awesome. Yeah. So yeah, and then 10 to 25 years, you know, have a good life. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. Maybe start a business with my bro, with my brother. Who knows? You never know what's gonna happen, but I'll stay vigilant in terms of like opportunities. But yeah, that's so really high level summary of like where I want to be. So
yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of course, professional life is over there, but also there's a lot of things happening in personal life too. Like, you know, what am I gonna do in the future? Like with my family, like where am I gonna live? All those. There's so many things, and so we have to also, I think about more holistically too, because I believe that's how we should be always thinking about our careers. Like, are we just supposed to, focus on our careers? Like, what about our personal lives? How can we live a much more of a fulfilling life? I think that's an important thing that people should remind themselves whenever they're thinking about their careers.
Hmm. Yeah, super interesting. I know when I ask, when I ask the 1 to 2 year projection, there's still people
Yeah,
most of the time are a little solid, but then when I talk about 10 years, they're like, well, I have no idea, because again, like things are changing
Yeah,
every day.
it's 10 years. That's it's gonna come really quick. That's for sure. That's for sure. So you definitely have to plan it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a plan A, plan B, plan C. Have multiple plans because and then if one doesn't work, you can cross it out. And then guess what? You have another plan.
Mhm.
You're not lost.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned a couple times throughout the call that you stay ahead of the industry trends. You're always, in the application process, you'll typically bring that up. So I was wondering, what are some strategies you use to stay ahead? Some people just tell me they listen to or they watch or they read the Morning Brew. So what do you usually do to keep up with everything?
Dude, absolutely. Morning Brew is the way. Like it's the GOAT. I've been reading Morning Brew since like sophomore year of college or freshman year. I think it was like early on. I didn't know it existed then, but I remember I was a pretty early on Morning Brew reader. I think I joined them like around when they were about to reach 1 million readers or subscribers. So yeah, I loved it since then. Like they send emails so early in the morning too, which I think they're trying to encourage healthy lifestyle. Wake up early, read about the news, talk to it with your coworkers, somehow use it to input in your outbounding strategy because some recent news could be related to your accounts. Who knows? So yeah, keeping up with that and other things. Yeah, just stick with Morning Brew. You should be fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to Morning Brew.
Yeah, no, they're great. I actually, I found out about them because I saw their founder. Well, I think he might have sold the company, but the guy who founded the company, he was on a podcast and I was listening to him. He sounded super inspiring. Whatever. I looked at his company, and they're huge. It's crazy how big of a company they built from a free pro. It's just a newsletter, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
built it. I think it was like a 75 million. They sold their valuation. I could be getting the numbers wrong, but either way, it was pretty big.
it's fine.
And now they're buying up all these other newsletters, so you can pretty much have anything you want on their platform. So I
Yeah, I
actually
mean,
just I recently became a reader of them, so they're great. So you think only them? You'd be fine when you stick with them?
yeah, start with Morning Brew. And then because in Morning Brew they have hyperlinks to the actual stories from like, different news outlets. And then maybe from that there you can explore like where the original sources come in to have a more in-depth uh uh understanding of the specific, economic trends or what businesses are doing internally and like and they're to read about their strategies. So yeah, I would start from Morning Brew. Great place. Get those referrals, so you can buy some merch. Those are awesome. And yeah, I would start it there. And also like when you talk with people, like just bring it up, ask them about their thoughts about on certain things that are happening. And you also want to be around those kind of people too. That's important.
Yeah, no, super interesting. And another good question I had for you before is, when you were switching from AT&T to Stripe, or when you were going from management consulting to
Yeah.
AT&T, like what are some frameworks you use when you're approaching like decision making? Like how are you sure of your decisions? What kind of mental processes do you go through to know that you're sure? And like also again, what advice do you have
Yeah,
for other
yeah.
people making a big decision in their career?
Yeah, this is again, it varies from every individual. I feel like depending on who you are as a person, it determines your decision-making process. And I can't speak for everyone. Like I can only speak for myself for this particular stuff. But what I found successful was I have to bring in um, you know, what's going on in my personal life too. Like, did I want to move to Chicago? If I move to Chicago, where will I live? And, there's so many questions to answer for yourself. And you have to look into details and benefits, your pay, just so many things. For me, I just go back to the simple basics, pros and cons, T chart. Like for me, like what are the benefits? What are the opportunity costs? I think people should start from there. And again, I think everyone has a different way, but my from my personal experience, that's the advice I would give. Yeah, very simple, but it helps to map out your mind. it's an important process to do. And don't use a computer, just use a paper and pencil.
Yeah,
Better.
there's just something different about like bringing out a notebook and actually writing. I feel like it's just more meaningful. You take more time rather than just going on the computer. I try to journal a lot, for the company, everything on my computer, but I always feel like literally I have this notebook right here. I write everything in there. It's
Nice.
just so easier, so much easier.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Paper and pencil, super important. My handwriting's terrible, surprisingly. It got worse since I've been using the computer a lot, but it's important. But I've journaled too. And I actually moved to Notion for my journaling. So
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. But yeah, when it comes to those big decisions of big career decisions, and don't be afraid to like even project your life. Like, you never know, but it doesn't hurt to project what you want and what might come. I think that's super important. Um, yeah, and ask for advice for people. Again, asking people on LinkedIn or any mentors you have, or even your parents, because I'm sure that had an amazing career life, and they probably have a lot of good insights to tell you. Um, I don't come from a background business family, so I had a lot of good mentors. One big mentor that I want to talk about is Thea Suzuki. I'm sure everyone knows her. She's amazing. But yeah, y'all should look her up. She works at EY, and she's been really helpful, just guiding me and just helping me. And she did tell me something really special that that sticks with me today, like to this day, and it will forever. And she said, "No one makes it alone." And that's such a big statement because when I was looking for jobs, building my career plans, I just felt like I was the only one experiencing this, and that the struggles that I was experiencing while job searching was a me thing. I thought it was a me thing, but then it's not. Everyone's experiencing the same thing, and asking for help is super important because you get to work with people, and who knows who people might help you. People who you just like have talked to at church or like at a social event might be the person who might help you to get your new job. So that's also, I guess, kind of relates to networking, but just knowing that you're not alone, that everyone's experiencing this together, brings more comfort and also encourages you to reach out to people for help. So yeah, shout out to Thea.
Man, I would use that as an advertisement for my own company. Like that feeds perfectly into my next point because my company is literally matching up students with good mentors of these big companies. So you're describing exactly like the thing I talk about with most students. So exactly that. So what would you say? We can kind of wrap up on this question. So
Yeah, yeah.
what would you think the importance for mentors has been for you? And then also, what role do you think mentoring plays in the world? And do you think everyone should go out there and find a mentor?
Yeah. So what I found really helpful to me is that I didn't even like I didn't even label my mentors as mentors. Like more like I wanted to build an organic relationship. Like, hey, what was your life like? How did you build your career? What's going on? And I just wanted to get to know them more personally. And yeah, that was always my way of outreaching, and just me as a person too. Like, because it shouldn't be a transactional relationship. It should never be a transactional relationship because when you get a mentor, you're also bringing something to the table, and I think you need to. And in that way, your mentor also shares something to you. And I never took it as a chance when I had my mentor in Cox. For me, it was never about getting a job where the mentor was working at. It was never about that. For me, it was more about like, what is your experience? Do you like it? Like, what did you learn that you want to, tell me? What are some advices that you wanted to know when you just started your career? Like, I was always curious of like what their life was like. And I think that's should be the first thing that people should do when they get a mentor. Yeah. Just build a relationship, like get to know them as a person. These are like people who have jobs, but at the same time have personal lives, probably travel to make cool places too. So maybe talk about their experiences over there. And yeah, and then from those conversations, you will learn a lot of things. So I think that's where like the beauty is with having a mentor. But yeah, that's just my
Yeah.
personal view. People might have different views, but I found that successful for myself, and I've learned the most.
No, that's amazing. That's super important. And also, I can add a little bit of that to my own company. So it's great advice even for me because I feel like the whole label of a mentor gets thrown around a lot, but what does that even look like? Usually it's like an organic relationship, as you said, that even just me and you talking,
Yeah.
I learned so much just from like even 45 minutes we've been talking now. So,
Oh gosh,
everything's more
45 minutes already?
I know. It's
Oh,
crazy. So
yeah.
so yeah. Do you have any last thoughts for the audience on either career, what you learned, your favorite quote, anything you want to leave the people with?
Favorite quote. I don't have a favorite quote on top of my mind, but I would just say to, enjoy this whole process and I don't want to say in a way like, not being, sensitive with everyone's going on with everyone's, in their personal lives, but I just mean it in a more of a positive and encouraging way. Because I don't know what people are going through and what their life is looking like after mass layoffs or just things will be happening. But what I want to encourage is, don't give up. There are people who are, like you, David, who are working hard to help people, get their career path straight. And you have to rely on your community a lot too. And that's just what I want to say. Yeah, just closing this conversation up. Just have a positive outlook because despite what's going on, there's pockets of, peace and positivity out there. So I would encourage people to look for that.
That was perfect. That was better than anything I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah, yeah, that was great.
Boom.
So yeah, no, it was honestly it was amazing having you on. I learned a lot, and so obviously I'd love to have another conversation sometime soon. And
Yeah, yeah. Maybe in the future, maybe after I get a more hang of this, role, and then maybe I can bring some more insights of sales, specific role related, skills. Right now, not the right person.
yeah, it was perfect. And I learned a lot. So I appreciate your time. And so does all the audience. And
Yeah,
so I look forward to talking to you soon and talking about the business, everything like that.
dude, best wishes, my man. Like, it's awesome. Like, keep it up.